Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, and Westworld Season 4 Episode 2 knocks it out the park as we end up going into a new one. Whether you're out of the loop or just getting into one yourself, we're going to be breaking down all the Easter eggs, hidden details, and our big theories on what's coming next time.
Wild theories, Bill.
Now we open with Clementine Pennyfeather, who we see is living a low-key life by herself. We last saw her in Episode 7 of Season 3 when she appeared in Jakarta at the beginning of the entry. She went head-to-head with a Delores copy that was inside Musashi, and this could explain why Hale ends up sending the Man in Black after her. He wants to know where Maeve is, and though this is thought to take place in the present, it could have happened at any point during the 8 years after the fall of Rehoboam. They would of course be searching for her, and Clementine actually ends up getting reprogrammed so that she becomes part of their forces. Clementine was revealed to be one of the very first hosts in the second season, and the end of that also revealed she had a deadly virus within her that made the hosts attack each other. Potentially, this could have been studied by Hale in order to figure out a way to alter human consciousness, so we turn on one another like what we saw with the cartel. We also got our theory right that this version of William is the copy that was introduced at the end of Season 3. As we pointed out in our last breakdown, the real William lost his fingers in the park, whereas this one has all his digits. We'll talk later on about what's happened to him, and we get way more of the plan laid out. Now elsewhere, we see Maeve and Caleb who travel out of the senator's house that we saw in Brigham's memory. We discover that both he and his wife are duplicates, and that, similar to William, they also carry the same personalities. I believe that this is because Delores managed to crack the fidelity issues that ended up making James Delos' immortalization program break and shut down. In the second season, we watched as they attempted to place his consciousness into a machine, but this failed over and over again. However, Season 2 had a post-credit scene in which William returned to a room in order to test for fidelity. Though humans weren't able to crack the code on how to copy someone, it makes sense that the machines would be able to, as they've existed in host bodies for their entire lives. Therefore, I think that Hale made this breakthrough, and now she's attempting to replace high-ranking citizens such as the Senator, Vice President, and as many VIPs as she can. We discover that Hale has been hard at work, and also how many that she has in her army.
As of now, 249.
Jesus.
Now the Senator and his wife are played by Jack Coleman and Saffron Burrows, who you might recognise from Heroes and Deep Blue Sea respectively. Jack Coleman also played the Senator in The Office, and in my headcanon, it's all connected. And this is the woman that he ended up using as a cover after he and Angela split up. He also played a Senator in Castle, and hey, you need a guy to play a politician, he's your host. Now this leads to a great fight, and interestingly, Maeve's suspension of the hosts doesn't immediately work on them. She does the old
freeze all motor functions.
However, this initially fails, meaning that she's no longer the overpowered host that she once was. We discover that Anastasia's sister was part of the original park massacre that happened all the way at the end of Season 1 and throughout Season 2. Therefore, he doesn't want to grant William the power to open up parks, which is where we end the episode. Now the real Anastasia walks in and she says the following.
I'm having the strangest dream.
This is similar to the cartel member last week, and as we discussed, flies are actually meant to be omens in dreams that show escaping one's reality. In that we watched as the cartel member woke up and attacked his boss, but here she's stabbed in the back by her duplicate before she potentially attacks her husband. Now at this point, Hale enters wearing a black dress that's similar to the one she had in the post-credit scene of Season 3. However, here she's covering up her burned arm, whereas there it was out on display as a reminder.
Thought you things could fix yourselves.
I wanted to remember who the fuck you people are.
Later on, she ends up bringing it out, making me think that she hid it here because she was appearing in public. They end up using Anastasia as a guinea pig, and they take her to the barn
With the rest of the livestock.
They are of course now farming humanity, and from here we cut to the credits. It's a Westworld, it's a Westworld, it's a Westworld, it's a Westworld. Also, forgot to point out last week that the skeleton is actually a human one instead of the host that we've seen being put in fluid. This ends up going in the same device that William later is in, and we see clouds of gas shooting out of it that he gets as well. The entire setup with the real William and this opening is also very similar to the drawing of the Vitruvian Man by Leonardo da Vinci, and he of course ends up as a literal man in black due to the suspension suit that they place him in. Now cut to Delos headquarters, which we last saw in Season 3. This is the exact same location, and we now see that Clementine is working as a member of staff there. Jim Navarro has arrived from the Justice Department, and he's here to investigate terrorism within the company. There's lip service paid to William's very public breakdown, and in season 3 he was assigned to an asylum which he then escaped from. Don't know how they covered up him murdering someone in Dubai Delos, but it's all been brushed under the rug, likely because of William's connections.
We can crush you. We all know about the mess you made.
Now in the barn, Maeve and Caleb discover Anastasia reenacting the Godfather, and there's lots of similarities here to the cannibal tribe that we met in season 1. Potentially Hale took across some of the programming in that and used elements of it to hypnotize Anastasia into following a similar narrative, but yeah, I'd be lying if I said I knew what was going on, so moving on. Now she delivers a message that they're invited to the opening night of a new park, and this sends the pair off on a mission to investigate what's going on. Also, can't show us the vid will probably get demonetized, but after Maeve shoots her in the head, black goo oozes out of the wound, juxtaposing the white fluid that came out of the hosts. Could further hint to this idea of reprogramming that Hale seems to be carrying out, and they do focus on the shot for quite a bit, making me think that it isn't just blood. Now we cut to Christina waking up in bed. This of course not only mirrors her entrance last time, but also several scenes throughout the season in which characters wake up in their bed to start a new day. Huge shout outs to Thing's Story for pointing out last week that the name Christina also derives from Christ, making her the potential saviour of wherever this place is. On the opposite side of this, Delores means sorrow, and we see how these different names apply to the character. Our editor Matt also pointed out last time that Delores' painting is called Vanishing Point, which itself is named after a Westworld episode. Now it's theory time. So the main theory going around at the moment that everyone's come up with, and they're all like, you need to listen to this theory, and I'm like, let me tell you this one first, and we both say the same thing, is that Christina is stuck in a park and that we're actually watching one based on New York. Everyone's saying it. Now this is backed up by the comments that she overheard last week with the 3 men.
This place is fucking wild. I can't believe this is your first time. Come on.
There's also the fact that the logo for Olympiad is similar to the Delos one, and that she picked up an item with Peter last week, similar to how guests in the park picked up a can to start a loop with her. Now though this could all be done by the creative team to make us go down the rabbit hole and be like, look, I've come up with a theory, you need to listen, I do think it's worth exploring. Now at the end of season 3, Delores' brain was uploaded into Rehoboam, and the creative team all confirmed that she is quote unquote dead. Her brain could still be in the machine, and as we know, this was capable of predicting human behaviour through its algorithm so that Serac could plot out the future with it as his guide. Her having this ability would explain how she's able to tell the destiny of characters like Peter, as it's now built into her consciousness. She could also subconsciously be similar to a character like Lee Sizemore, who wrote plot lines for the park. Now she may, and I'm saying may, be in the Sublime, and she could possibly end up running into Bernard, who travelled there at the end of season 3. This would allow him to warn her about the war on humanity, and then he could continue into the future, namely the post-credits scene of season 3. This story could also be set in the future as well, and as we know, parks tend to be versions of things from the past, so this would be why they'd stylized it on a modern New York. The tower could simply be the control hub in the middle that everything is ran from, and I call this throwing as much at the wall as possible to see what sticks. Now, another interesting theory comes from Papa Whiskey on our last video. They said that they think Christina might actually be the basis for Delores, and that this could be set far back in the past. She was a writer who pretty much created the origin story Delores had in the park with her father, and again, that thing happened. Now if this is true, then a young Robert Ford could have plucked up this aspiring young writer, and along with her boyfriend Teddy, they could have created the basis for the 2 hosts in the park. There's also the fact that Delores wakes up and she still has the cut on her arm. In the park they would take damaged hosts away and heal them overnight, but here we see that it still remains behind. So potentially she is actually human. I love this idea, and as much as I love all of them, and that's the end of theory time. Theory time. Said about 20 theories there, and they're probably all wrong, but it's theory time, so don't get mad because it's just a theory, it's just a theory. Now Maya pulls up his obituary, and Christina somewhat recalls writing a similar story to his life. This is later confirmed when Delores listens back to the pitch that she created for him. This talks about him losing his wife, job, and also becoming obsessed with a girl that he stalked, which is of course exactly what happened last episode. This makes it seem like the story was written and then he was created by who could be building the hosts if this is indeed a park. This would also mean that if she wrote one for Teddy, he'd be created too, which would allow for him to return. Now the obituary lists the home he was cared at due to his mental health issues, and she heads out there. However, on the way she bumps into the homeless man once more, and he says this.
It's killing them. The noise. Do you hear it?
The tower. It's coming from the tower. No one can hear his music but me. Me and the birds.
Moments later, she sees several dead ones on the ground, which the rest of the people in the area don't pick up on. Very much comes across like she's Neo, realizing he's in the Matrix, and yeah, I love trying to figure out what's going on with her. Now we cut to a golf course where William meets the Vice President. I love how William wears all black, including his hat, which resembles his outfit in the park. Again, he's got two fingers here, and he constantly hits a hole-in-one over and over and over. The guy went from shouting Ford to shouting four. Hey, golf joke. No, the senator also drops this line.
All yours, huh? As far as the eye can see. Sun's not setting on you, my friend.
This is a play on the British Empire, who used to rule so many countries that it was said the sun would never set on their domain because of how vast it was. William says that the park's already been built and the government obviously don't want it to go ahead because, as we learned last week, robots have been outlawed. Also, huge shoutouts to everyone on that video who pointed out that on the My Brain My Choice picture that the AI part of brain had been crossed out. Really appreciate you guys sending it through, an awesome job. Anyway, it's the most intimidating round of golf I've ever seen, and it ends with William smacking him over the head. William implies that he'll grow just like he has, and at the park at the end, we see him once more, likely a copy. Maeve and Caleb end up attending the party, which is revealed to be the launch of this destination. It is weird that Delos would launch a new one, and there has to be another reason for this. As we learn in Season 2, the Hats at Westworld ended up scanning someone's brain, and this mapped out their entire consciousness. Delores even entered a library that housed every guest's brain transformed into code, but this data was likely lost due to Hale's death. Last week, William discussed this at the Hoover Dam and how they couldn't access the servers. So they're potentially having to remap a lot of the data that they can't access, which is why they're opening up new parks. This episode is titled Well Enough Alone, and this could be applied to not only Caleb and Maeve, but also Christina. They were perfectly fine not getting wrapped up in this, but they had to dig deeper into what's going on. Also, I'll probably end up calling Christina Delores at some point in the video, just warning you. I know who I mean, and you do too, but just ignore it, please. Now they enter an Art Deco room, which is our first clue to this park being set in the 20s. Caleb hints that his wife didn't recognize him when he returned home, and this could further back up the idea that he did indeed die here. I don't think that's the case, but it was weird how they edited the scene to show him seemingly dying before he was then revealed to be fine in the next one. They'd have some splaining to do about his daughter, but this is interrupted by the room moving. Turns out they're on a train, which was of course the way that guests used to enter the park in Westworld. You also get a play on this line by Maeve.
And when I finally set foot back on solid ground, what I found was the same old shit.
And when I finally set foot back on solid ground, first thing I heard was that goddamn voice.
Cut to my dude Jimmy Navarro from the Justice Department, who we can hear saying that the VP has had a big change of heart. In his car he's attacked by Clementine, and then Hale enters and unleashes the flies. The flies are a major mystery in the show, and they of course showed up last week with the cartel boss. The intro shows them being created much like a host, and I think at the moment they're likely able to control and alter someone's brain. Perhaps they crawl into the body like what we see here, and they scramble someone's mind so that they can be manipulated. This shot of a fly crawling across someone's eye also has callbacks to Delores, who had one scuttle across hers in the first season. Flies also appeared in the barn, but they were there because of the horse bodies, rather than being machines. At least I think so. F***ing show's got me nitpicking everything. Haven't seen my wife for like 6 weeks, man. What the hell's wrong? Anyway, on the train, they're greeted by Sophia, who's played by Lily Simmons. This is the same actress who ended up playing the new Clementine in Westworld after she was taken out of the park due to her malfunctioning. Sophia asks if they have any mental health issues, which Caleb wants to clarify, and this is likely because he suffers from some due to what he's been through. She also asks them to sign a waiver that their personal data can be used, and this has got a hefty list of terms and conditions that neither of them read. Clearly, this is a plan to take their brain patents, and it's going to use them for what we theorized before, because theory time never misses. Even when we throw 100 theories out there that all contradict each other, they're all right every time, and that's because it's theory time. And there's also some lines reused from William's entrance.
Starting here. Everything is bespoke and exactly your size.
Everything is bespoke and exactly your size.
She also asks if Caleb wants any help getting dressed, similar to the seduction techniques used on William. Lastly is the hat choice, black and white, which was also mirrored in the shoe choice Maya gave Delores last week. It's Christina, I meant to say, but leave that in. And the pair turn this down because they know what's really going on. Christina, get that right, arrives at the Hope Center for Mental Health, which again hammers home the idea that this is a park, potentially future world. And that's because in Westworld we had Fort Fall on Hope, so this name Hope has likely been repurposed from that. Future World was actually the sequel to the original Westworld movie, and there are rumours that it's one of the many parks that's popping up this entry. Inside, Christina finds the Peter Myers wing, showing that the character has been dead for a long time, whereas to her it just happened recently. The hospital has been shut down for several years, and it also has sketches of the tower. Season 1 Delores had issues with time, and due to the host having perfect memories, she constantly jumped back and forth between her time with young William and also the present. Maya calls her home, and she very much acts as someone who doesn't really want her getting to the bottom of it, similar to the AI creation of Caleb's bud in Season 3. Jump across to the original William, and it's possible that this takes place just after the post-credits scene of Season 3. Again, lots of timey-wimey wibbly-wobbly stuff, but it seems like he's just being introduced to the plan here, which would have probably been told to him 8 years ago when they first started putting it in motion. White light shoots up the suit, mimicking the lights that ended up on Delores at the end of Season 3 when she was plugged into Rehoboam. We then cut to the host William's speech, which he delivers at the park. This mirrors forwards in episode 10, in which he introduced the new narrative with Teddy and Delores. The train arrives in Chicago whilst he drops it, and we watch the park start up similar to how Westworld did upon guests entering it. Everything then starts up on its loop, with the city coming bustling to life. Brilliant episode, and I'm fully on board with the season. Really enjoyed it, and lots of awesome things going on with it that I love so far. It's got such a great style and mystery to it that constantly keeps you guessing over what's going on. Now, I want to talk more trailer stuff that might potentially back up some of the theories in this video, even though all of them are right as we discussed because theory time. Now, spoiler alert for this bit because I know some of you just don't want to know. Also, if you've enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe as we're going to be doing breakdowns on the show every week. Anyway, backing up the idea that Delores or Christina is inside a simulation, there's a shot in the trailer that shows a 3D map of New York. Later on we see that Christina is indeed there, and it's similar to the maps of the park that popped up in Season 1. Christina stands over this. I've got Delores written down at every single point in this section in the script, but Christina stands over this at the end of the teaser, showing that she has potentially discovered it. Now we also get Caleb wandering the streets of the city, whilst everyone else is frozen, which too is something that happened in the park. This idea of people frozen, of course, was there before the host also started up in the Chicago recreation. So lots of things going on with that, but again, what I love about the series and what's come before is that you can never out and out say whether your theory is right. You can do theory time until you're blue in the face because you had to run 2 miles down the road and shout to the mic to get that effect. But yeah, wild stuff going on. Anyway, that's the video. Go relax, it's time to unplug. But before you do, drop a comment below with your thoughts on exactly what's going on. We are running a competition right now and giving away 3 copies of Everything Everywhere All at Once on the 15th of July, and all you have to do to be on the chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on the episode. We pick the comments at random at the end of the month, and the winners of the last one are on screen right now, so if that's you, then message me on Twitter at HeavySpoilers. If you want something else to watch, then make sure you check out our breakdown of The Boys, which will be linked on screen right now. We've also been covering Stranger Things, so lots of things on the channel for you to go and check out. With that out of the way, thanks for sitting through the video. I've been Paul, I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.